finally made it through the throng of men, women, and children and babies to get to the Namco booth to talk to this guy, Dan Tovar, who was the producer for this new game, Splatterhouse. And when I say new, I should probably say it's a retelling, as the original game came out in 1988.
That's right.
And there's been 3 of them, Splatterhouse 1, 2, and 3. And so from what I'm understanding, you know, the very first one was a beat-em-up side-scroller. And so what you've done with this one, it's more of a retelling, and it's going to be more of, it's still a beat-em-up, but it's more beat-em-up survival horror. Is this correct?
Well, it's not really survival horror. It's definitely like has horror themes. It's an action brawler, 100% action game. So it's all about punching stuff until it explodes. But, you know, besides the action, we wanted to make sure that we were paying homage to the horror movies out there. So, you know, besides just being a bloody, gory mess, you know, there's a lot of nods to, like, our favorite horror movies and just a general kind of creepy vibe throughout the mansion. But you never lose the mask, so it's never like, you know, really survival horror type situation. You're always the big bolt-up Rick that's, like, just a killing machine.
So now you brought up a good point with Rick, because Rick originally looked like Friday the 13th, and now he's more bulked up, and he doesn't have the hockey mask anymore. He has the skull. And I was looking at him, and he looks pretty freaking frightening. And I also heard this rumor that he can be dismembered, but his limbs can grow back, and you can actually beat people with those dismembered limbs. Is this true?
That is very correct. You can beat somebody with your own severed arm. Regeneration is part of our main mechanics. The mask gives him the power to regrow his own flesh using the necrotic energy that he gathers from these other monsters. So in that situation, if somebody comes up and they attack you for a while, like, it'll expose your ribs, your shoulder bones, your spine, your internal organs, and then you have to siphon out this energy from these enemies so that you can use it to regrow your own flesh. And that includes your arm. So if somebody can come up and, like, bite your arm clean off, or if they have a giant hatchet, they can come up and, like, one clean swipe, just slice your arm right off. In that situation, you kind of got to get away from the fray, kind of get away from, like, the enemies, and your bones will grow back, and then, like, the muscle and the sinew, the blood and the skin. So yeah, it's pretty gnarly, man. We make a bloody good mess of things.
So you do actually get to see the regeneration as it happens?
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Okay, let's also talk about, I wanted to ask you about this because I did actually do my research. Notes. Let's talk about splatter kills.
Yeah, splatter kills is basically the culmination of the best way to kill an enemy. So blood is power in the game, so you're trying to get the most blood out of these enemies. There's different ways to do that. You have quick punches that you can use, and you have heavy attacks which will damage them further, and the weapons obviously, like, beat things to a bloody pulp. But the best way to get the most blood out of something is the most brutal way is our splatter kill. So each of the enemy classes has a different way that you can beat them down into submission, basically, and it engages into this splatter mode. We drop the background out so you can focus on it, uplight it with a spotlight, and you're basically rendering these monsters piece by piece in various fashions. So it depends on the enemy. Some of them you're just, like, mashing their head together and pumping blood out of their eyes or nose until eventually their whole head just gets destroyed and collapses, and a geyser of blood will just spray out of his neck while he's, like, falling to the ground. So that's one of my favorites, but, you know, there's a lot of them in there.
Well, with that said, I think it's time to try it out, don't you? Should we give it a shot?
Ready when you are.
Eep.